He walks in, he goes, Ayman, yalla, come with me, in Arabic. That was the way he welcomed himself. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Naguib Sawiris, and I'll tell you, you are the most humble billionaire I've ever met. To give us a keynote talk.
Actually, I hate the word rich and billionaire. It makes you look really bad. I mean, when I was young, I was a Sunday school teacher in church, so I had to read the Bible very well because I was teaching it to kids, you know. Then I was struck by a verse that said that Jesus said it's going to be very difficult for a rich man to get into paradise. It's as difficult as a camel going through a needle. And as my goal from the very beginning was to be very rich, as Dr. Ayman said, it was a dilemma for me, you know. So I went to my mom, she's the expert on the Bible, and I told her, what about this phrase now? I want to be very rich and I still don't want to lose my options, you know. And she said, look, my son, whatever is difficult for human beings is not impossible for God. So you need to have just your faith in him, and he'll find a way still to get you through the needle, you know. And ever since, you know, actually my faith became stronger during my business life, which is really very funny, because I kept on thinking about this phrase of Jesus. Why did he say that, you know? Until in my life as an entrepreneur, I found out that there comes situations where the code of ethics, your principles, and whatever you have it becomes a challenge. If you have to make a choice sometimes, whether you want more money or you want to adhere to ethics and compassion and what my dear friend Dr. Tabish calls humanity, you know. In my case, I chose the latter all my life because I said God gives, God takes, but nobody's going to help me out, especially with this already difficult situation I'm in. Coupled with the fact that, you know, in the 30s, it was the objective of communists or people who thought that communism and maybe some part of socialism, maybe socialism is more, let's say, affordable, but communism portrayed itself as an economical system that will care for the poor, that is humane and takes care of everybody. And then we all know now it was a disaster and it was a failed system. So for sure, communist, and if you see all these old movies trying to portray an entrepreneur or a capitalist, is always portrayed like someone who's a blood-sucking person trying to suck the last effort from the working class and has no heart and is just all about the money and so on. So in this bigger context, you know, I was very happy when Dr. Ayman said, let's come someone to talk about humanity and being a human businessman, which I really need to say that I always try to call myself, I'm a businessman with a heart. So my heart actually it's not a good thing that when my heart and my mind actually have a conflict, I actually always follow my heart, and it's not always the best business decision when you do that, but I have selected that, you know. And this portray about these bad entrepreneurs and that the rich exploit the poor and they have no heart. You know, when you see today people like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett and what they've done with all their fortune, how can these people not be semi-angels? They've donated all their wealth to charity. So this portray about, you know, that an entrepreneur or a businessman has no heart or is not human is really ill used. You know, I remember when I did my, let's say my success was mostly in building the biggest telecom operation in the Middle East and Africa. I had 380 million subscribers on my networks. But I remember certain things. I remember when I went to Congo, Brazzaville, and we opened this first network in Africa. It was after a civil war. People had lost all hope that anything is going to happen in this country. They've never seen a fixed line even in their home. And when we opened the network, the people just made a big party around the whole country in the city. It was an event because having this device in their hand and being able to call their parents and their friends and to communicate and to start a small business. I cannot tell you how many small businesses were jump-started on this small device. Not only small businesses, revolutions too, you know. I remember when we launched the operation in Bangladesh, and the farmers there, they used to be exploited by the big entrepreneurs without a heart, the unhumane ones, and because they couldn't compare prices of their products in different parts of the country, so they used to sell the product at the cheapest price. But with the introduction of our mobile phone, they could exchange information about the prices everywhere, and they weren't anymore ready to be cheated anymore. And they were selling their crops for the highest possible price. So the motto of the story is that you can do projects, you can make money, and you can do development, but still always feel the people. Have a heart for human beings. Because otherwise, as I mentioned in the beginning, your chances with this needle are going to be thinner and thinner, you know. Right now, because I have sold my telecom company, so when I invest today, I try to do in this last years of my life, I invest also with my heart, you know. So I went to a small island in the Caribbean called Grenada, and I found out that this beautiful island has a problem, and the problem was that they have very limited number of rooms. So there's not enough rooms for tourists to get interested on, and all these travel agents to send people there. So I decided to make a hotel that will add around 30 or 40% of the room capacity in this small country, you know. It's not about humanity. I'm sure I'm going to make a lot of money, I mean, as I've always done, but it's again, you're doing the two things in one shot. You're giving people more jobs, you're creating jobs, and you're getting them on the map of being attractive. The same thing I'm doing now in Cyprus, because after their crisis, nobody wanted to see Cyprus, nobody wanted to go to Cyprus, and they were in need of a large project to show the world that they're still alive and so on. So I'm building now a small a big marina in Ayanapa, which will re-attract tourism back into Cyprus at the time where nobody was going to Cyprus at all, because it was after the crisis, and you know what happened with the banks and everything. The best moment of my life was also when I decided to do, I came up with this idea. I was looking at the TV, and now I'm going to share your frustrations, my frustrations with you. So, because people think when you're very rich, you're powerful, you can do everything. I used to think that too, you know. And if this one, it would be my first failure in my life, actually, with something I put in my mind, you know. So I watch the TV, and I see this body of this little boy thrown on the sea. Aylan is his name. He's a Turkish boy. He was thrown on the Turkish shores. 4 or 5 year old boy, and the picture, and comment with all the pictures coming from Hungary, how these refugees were being beaten up, and every day the boats and people dying and so on. And I sit on the TV and I say, listen, you cannot just be like everybody and turn the station and say it's none of my business, you know. So I came up with this idea, is to go out, and this is the good use of money, and buy an island, and from the Greek government, and I thought this was a good idea because they're broke anyhow, and they could use some of the money I'm going to do, and it's for a good cause, and they'll be really very helpful, you know. And the idea was very simple. I would buy a few islands, get the people there, and give them a job to build their new homes, their new city, school, a hospital, a hotel, to give them jobs. And these islands would remain in the future to become a tourist hub and so on. And it would solve a problem, because my aim was to get 100,000, 200,000 refugees there. And I got a whole list of 25 islands from private people, so I don't have to go through the red tape of governments. And after a lot of trials to meet the Prime Minister of Greece, I went to see him through connections. My first attempts failed on a direct notion. And he was first enthusiastic. He said, "Will help." I told him, "Listen, I don't want anything from you. All I need is an approval that says you can send so many people to this or that island. You choose the islands for me because we have security concerns or whatever you have. Here is the list. All these people are ready sellers. I have the money, I want to do that, I want to put the people there and give them a chance to build their lives. So can you help me? What I need from you is an approval and a security and passport control unit in the island of choice. That's all. I'll do all the rest, and I will solve some of these problems, and I will save lives. Meeting, as usual, with politicians goes well in the beginning, and he said, yes, it's a good idea, we will help you. And that was the end of the story. After 2 months, I received an email telling me what's the depth and how long is the shore of the island. I told him, this is not the question. You have 25 islands, just choose any island you want. All what I want is, how many people am I allowed to put there? Are you willing to give me a passport control? And this is the real question. Just answer this question and the rest I'll do. It's not about topography here, you know. And since then, I didn't receive any answer, and it adds to the frustration of my life because I wasn't doing that for any reason. I just wanted to have a clean conscience that I did not see what's happening and I didn't do anything, you know. It leads us to, to this fact. I mean, we talk about corporate social responsibility. We talk about having, all these issues boil down to the same thing. You know, they boil down to have a conscience, to be human. And part of that is also, in my personal opinion, is helping small businesses. You know, I was extremely happy and proud when my friend Edgar Brofman, the Warner here, started Endeavor. And Endeavor is an organization that uses big guys or big businessmen like us to help the small entrepreneurs. So what we do is we go and select a few entrepreneurs in the country, and then we go personally and we sit with the founders, the small business, and tell them how to improve, what are the taxes that you should take, what is the IT component that they should introduce, and we give them advice from our valuable time to make them one day bigger and successful entrepreneurs. And so why do we do that? Because like what has been said here 1 time, 2 times, and 3 times is, small businesses are 90% of the number of corporates in most countries and 50 to 60% of the jobs. And believe me, with all these numbers, they get the least attention and the least help. So it's actually crazy. We are all talking about job creation and so on, and all what we do is we look at these big, I know what kind of a reception I get when I go to any country, red carpet, and I meet the presidents and so on. But how about these small ones? You know, and I remember because I started like them, you know. So I am really very happy to have had this honor to address you here. I encourage you all to go out after this conference and help anybody you can help. Thank you very much for this opportunity.